Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving Podcast. My name is Ashley.
And I'm Katie.
And today's episode is brought to you by Plant-Based in 30 Days, which is our course to help you go plant-based in 30 days.
1 month. You can do it.
Yes. We've had some really incredible reviews. So everyone who takes the course, we ask them to give us feedback because that is so helpful. And Katie's going to read one of the recent reviews that we had this week.
Yes, congrats to the student for completing our course. We're so excited for her. So she said one of her benefits from her takeaways from the course was that she feels better and has allowed herself some grace to when things maybe don't go as planned. So that's amazing. And her overall experience was great. It helped her to understand herself better and that she is doing this for her and no one else. Preach.
Yes, we love that. That's such an important part of your journey, is recognizing that you are doing this for yourself. And when you do things for yourself, such as like go plant-based, there's so many positive side effects that happen not only to you, but other people notice as well. Yes. I just feel like there's so many other benefits that just like filter out into the rest of the world. And
that's what I love about our course. It's not just about food. It's so much more than that. Yes. It's about relationships and planning and why you're doing this. Yep. So much good stuff in it, guys.
Yeah. It's basically everything that I've learned, not basically, it is, for the last 11 years compiled into a course to help you step by step go plant-based in a way that's sustainable so that you don't feel like, I don't know if this is something I can do for the rest of my life. We want to make sure that it's something that not only makes you feel great, not only allows you to give yourself grace like that student said, but also something that you feel like you can do for the rest of your life and feel your best doing it.
Yes. And don't forget about those bonuses.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's right. There's so many bonuses.
So many bonuses.
We have 3 gut health experts in there that talk about, obviously, gut health and plant-based eating. We talk about how to vacation while you're plant-based, how to eat out while you're plant-based. I walk you through one of the most challenging menus I've ever seen and basically teach you how to eat vegan or plant-based at restaurants. I know I'm missing some because there's a lot of others in there.
How to talk about the holidays.
That's right. Yes.
Which are coming
on. Yes, they are. Take the next step today to go plant-based with our Plant-Based in 30 Days course, which you can find in the show notes where we've shared a link where you can access it very easily.
You got to do it.
Let's do it. Well, Katie, I'm really excited for today's guest. So this is part 4 of our 5-part series with the VeganStrong PlantBuilt Team, where I'm interviewing some of the athletes and also some of the founders. It is in, I guess, if you're listening to this on Thursday when we release this episode, I will be on a plane to Atlantic City, New Jersey, getting ready for Mr. America a week from today. Yes.
Yeah. And I have been so impressed with this series so far. These people and their stories have inspired me and have shocked me, have taught me. I love it.
Yep. I could not agree more. Well, I think then you're really going to like today, Dr. Kashdan's interview. So Dr. Sarah Kashdan, she is a registered naturopathic doctor, and she's a NCCAOM diplomat of acupuncture with additional degrees in environmental health and toxicology.
Wow, big old brain.
Incredible. So Dr. Kashdan is unique in that she has degrees in both naturopathic medicine and Chinese medicine and acupuncture. And she brings such a unique perspective to this conversation, one, because she's an athlete, and also because she has this background in medicine. This combination of Western and Eastern medical training provides her patients, which she talks about, with a truly integrative approach to healthcare. And we talk about how all doctors are important, but specifically we talk more about her approach to clients and how she's able to spend more time with her patients and really able to get to the root cause of what is going on, which I found really fascinating. And she talks all about how she does that. She talks about common treatments she recommends, approaches, how you can see her if you want to see her if you're in the Colorado area. And then, of course, we talk about her powerlifting journey and her own personal journey to veganism.
I mean, what a cool, she must approach her athleticism from a very specific way, from having all of this background and knowledge. And I'm excited to see this combo of Western and Eastern kind of working together and this integrative approach, because we've had so many people, so many experts on the podcast that are leaning more towards that way. And it definitely feels, you know, like it aligns with more of how I think our healthcare should be going.
Yep.
So I'm excited to hear her perspective.
Yes. She even talks about her nutrition, and I really liked her approach because it was very approachable. And I think it was just a nice reminder that it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And she basically lists the steps that she takes to make sure that she's successful each week, because owning her own practice, powerlifting, you know, practicing yoga, doing all these things, she has to be very strategic in her week and make sure she's prioritizing the things that are making her successful throughout the week. And not just her, but also her patients as well, and prioritizing them.
And I love hearing stories like that. I love hearing how busy people are prioritizing their wellness, because it helps remind me every week that that's what I should be doing. And hopefully you guys can relate to that out there too. We're all busy.
Yep. Yeah. I read this quote, and I'm going to probably butcher it a little bit, but it said something, and I actually just read it this week because I was putting together some reels, and it said something related to, if you don't prioritize your wellness now, you're going to be forced to prioritize your illness later on.
That gave me chills. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yep. So to give you a glimpse into Dr. Kashdan's story before I turn it over to our conversation, she's actually been vegan for over a decade now, and she had her own personal journey with ovarian cancer, which she talks about, Katie, and it was really remarkable just to hear her entire story.
I love that these plant-built people, you know, your team, these are not newbies. These are like old school vegans for decades. I love that. They are representing. So it's not just like a fluke. It's not just a phase. They are in it to win it for decades.
Yep, they are. All right, Katie, should we turn it over?
I can't wait.
All right. Here's my conversation with Dr. Kashdan. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kashdan. I am so excited to learn more about you and your story and meet you in 1 week, which is wild to say.
So excited.
Yes. How are you feeling about everything?
Yeah, feeling pretty good. I'm sore, so I'm a power lifter on the PlantBuilt VeganStrong team, and it's my first year of the team, and I'm really excited to meet everybody and see how it goes on the platform.
I know. Yeah. So have you done powerlifting competitions before?
I have. Yeah, I've competed, I think, 4 or 5 times. I started later. I just recently turned 39, so I'm almost at the master's level, which I'm excited about.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been powerlifting since 35, I think. So I'm still pretty new to it.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I definitely want to hear like how you got into powerlifting. And I think that's really fantastic that you got into it, you know, somewhat later in life. Because I feel like a lot of us were like, well, maybe I'm too old for this, and heck, 35 is still very young. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I actually, I got started in medical school because I was stressed all the time, and there wasn't enough yoga and oming and, you know, all that kind of stuff to kind of get me through. So I started powerlifting and really loved it, and got into competing and found it was something that I really loved and that I was decent enough at, and I've just been doing it ever since.
That's amazing. Now, can you explain for those of us who might not be familiar with what powerlifting is, what exactly that entails?
Yeah, so powerlifting is the big 3. So squat, bench, and deadlift. When you compete, you have 3 chances at each lift. And then for each lift that you complete, you know, with all the rules, you hit depth in your squat, they take the highest number of each lift and they total it, and then that's your score.
Nice. Very cool. So do you have a favorite lift by chance?
I'm a deadlifter.
Yes.
Yes.
Sumo or conventional?
I'm a sumo girl.
Okay. Yep. Nice.
Although I will say that my conventional actually isn't too far behind it, but I'm definitely stronger at sumo.
Yeah. That's amazing. Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear how you got into the vegan lifestyle. Like what kind of introduced that to you? I know you have a kind of a unique story there, so I would love for you to kind of take us back and introduce us to how that all started.
Yeah, so I think similar to you, I grew up on a lot of meat.
Yep.
A lot of meat, a lot of butter, a lot of lard, all that gross stuff. I was never really a big meat eater. I just did it because that's what my family fed me. It's a lot in my heritage. And over the years, you know, I kind of just on my own started to eat a little bit less and a little bit less. I just didn't really like it. Lactose intolerant anyways. I didn't eat dairy for a long time. But it wasn't until 2012, that whole year, I actually started to get really sick. I was teaching yoga full time during that year, and I thought that, you know, maybe it's just I was teaching too much and moving around too much. I was losing a bunch of weight. I felt kind of weird. People thought I had an eating disorder, and I was like, no. So I went to a bunch of different doctors, and I was like, I don't feel good. I'm losing weight. Things are weird. And they just told me it was in my head. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
As it goes. And it turns out that later in that year, I got diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And I was like, oh no.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got diagnosed pretty young. And, you know, a lot of my healing was a lot of dietary changes. I did end up having surgery to have that one ovary removed. I refused radiation and chemo. And during that time, I was introduced to acupuncture for pain management, and then kind of started to dabble in, you know, the naturopathic world, which is, you know, where I exist now as a physician, and really just went from what I was eating before, and I just went strict vegan. And when I say vegan, I mean vegan. Like, we're talking fruits and veggies. Like, that's it. You know, like smoothies and, you know, juices. I went hard. And I've been in really good health ever since. I've recovered. I feel good. I've never had a recurrence. And I would never go back.
Wow. Because when you started experiencing symptoms, you were like in your late 20s at that point.
Late 20s. Yeah, I was young. I was young for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, how did veganism come about?
So, you know, the vegan aspect of it is, you know, I've always loved animals. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. I didn't want to be a human doctor, but this is just where life took me. I never felt right eating animals. It never felt spiritually good to me. For me, it was just a really natural transition of, you know, changing my diet for health reasons, but then continuing on because I do love animals so much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It sounds like it was really aligned, and I'm sure even more as you got more into practicing yoga. I'm sure that just like it was very cohesive.
For sure. That just kind of like compassionate living, and you know, I know for some people compassion exists in a lot of different ways, but for me, just, you know, in my heart, I can't do it.
Yep.
I just can't do it. You know, sometimes I think about, well, if I had different health issues, would I change my diet? I don't know. But I feel really aligned with, you know, not only just eating plant-based, but also, you know, spiritually feeling grounded in my decision to be vegan.
Wow.
And it's been since then. So, you know, 10 plus years. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. And were you practicing as a physician yet at that time too, when you were going through all that?
No. This was before I went to medical school. And this is sort of what led me to medical school, because I didn't want anyone to go through the experience that I did, feeling really disempowered and not listened to. And especially as a female. So I wanted to go to school and do it differently. And that's what I do. I do it very differently now.
You do it very differently, which I'm curious to learn more about, because as I was like, you know, looking more into you and what you do, I was like, oh yeah, she's not a conventional doctor. You know, you
not at all
really branched out.
I did. Yeah.
So how did that kind of come about too? I'm sure it was part of like your diagnosis, like you said, but
For sure. Yeah. So, you know, I'm a naturopathic doctor. And the way that I'm trained, I'm trained like a conventional doctor, meaning that I've had all the anatomy and the physiology and the pharmacology, all of those things. But my practice is much more rooted in treating the whole person, treating the root cause or causes. It's not about suppressing symptoms. It's not about treating symptoms. It's about allowing the body to heal, which is still a very radical way of approaching medicine in our society.
Yep.
A lot of it's diet and lifestyle. I don't do any pharmaceutical medicine. Depending on where you are practicing as an ND, scopes of practice are different. So some have prescriptive rights. In Colorado, I don't, and I wouldn't want to in the first place. Mm-hmm. I'm also an acupuncturist too. So
I was going to say, I know the list was long.
It's a lot. I know. It's too many degrees.
Yep. I actually didn't know that about prescription medications. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I don't use any pharmaceuticals. I have a lot of patients on pharmaceuticals. Sometimes I can get them off of them. Sometimes I can't. But all of my modalities are diet, lifestyle, you know, sleep hygiene, stress management. You know, I use a lot of botanical medicine. I use homeopathy, which is energy medicine. I use my acupuncture. I use my Chinese medicine. So I have a lot of different tools in my toolkit other than pharmaceuticals, and they work quite well.
Yeah. And what kind of patients tend to come see you? Like what type of patients are maybe drawn to you, and what are they seeking versus maybe just going to a conventional doctor, which both are fantastic.
But yeah, there's a time and a place for sure.
Yes.
So I get patients who have seen, you know, X amount of other medical providers in a lot of different specialties. They haven't been listened to. They haven't been appropriately worked up diagnostically. They haven't been given a diagnosis, or they've just been given pill after pill after pill. And they're fed up with it. And so they come and see me. And so often the cases I see are just chronic chronic health disease. I don't get the acutes. I mean, if you break your leg, don't come and see me. But a lot of chronic metabolic diseases, chronic viral diseases. I see a ton of autoimmunity, a lot of environmental exposures, a lot of mold. I see, sleep disorders, anxiety, depression, tons and tons of gut stuff. So kind of all the chronic things are what I see.
Yep. Which, speaking of mold, I know that you were on the news recently talking about it.
I was on the news recently. Yeah. In Colorado, we have a bit of a mold problem, which people don't normally think about because of the dry climate, but it's becoming more and more of an issue. And I really do see such a large environmental impact on health, and I'm really trying to bring awareness to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is sort of the difference when a patient comes to see you? I mean, how much time are you able to spend with them, and how much time do you kind of spend with them maybe long term?
Yeah, great question. So the big difference is when I don't work in the insurance system, which is great. It affords me a lot of freedom. Yeah. That being said, it can price some people out, and I understand that. But when patients come to see me, we meet for an hour and 15 minutes as our first visit. Not only do I talk about their present health concerns, but I want to know everything else about their life. I want to know their past, medical history, their past traumas, right? The mind and body go together. I want to know about the sleep. I want to know about menstrual cycles. I want to know about your gut. I ask 1,000 questions. Usually I'll do some sort of functional testing. I find that a lot of the conventional doctors do they check the boxes, right? And they miss some important things. So I'll do some lab work. I actually don't have a lot of patients long term, and that's my goal. I want people to get better. I don't want them to need me and have to rely on me. I would say I probably see, other than acupuncture patients who I see more regularly, I probably see patients an average of 4 times, and then they're good.
Wow, that's incredible. Mm-hmm. Do you have, well, first, I guess I want to say that I know a lot of listeners can relate to going to doctors, and no matter, what doctor they go to, just not feeling heard or seen, and they're struggling with something, and they know something's wrong.
Right.
But
yeah. The classic is, they said all my lab work is normal, so there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right? And labs are helpful, but I believe what people tell me, right? They're paying me a lot of money, and they're not here to just make stuff up. So it's sadly one of the number one compliments that I get is thank you for listening to me. And I wish that weren't so radical.
Yeah. Right. What kind of advice would you give someone who is thinking about seeking an alternative doctor or alternative medicine, who maybe is just sick of doing the same thing?
Yeah, I think that what I can provide is a different lens. I truly am holistic. I look at systems rather than symptoms. And I find that when I look at people systematically, it's a lot easier to figure out what's going on. And then also, I always go back to the foundations. I feel like they skip the diet and lifestyle. The sleep hygiene is bad. We're on our phones. We're hustling all day long, right? And, you have to have all those things in place in order for the body to work well. And so I always joke that I am very, very basic in my approach. But if you go down to the basics and you really build a steady foundation, the body is very smart and it will adapt to that. So I go back to the basics and I see amazing things happen.
Wow. Are there any success stories off the top of your head that you wouldn't mind sharing with the listener?
I've had a lot of them, actually. My mold cases, I've had a lot of success with. They're tough cases to treat, but I can do it. I would say, since we're talking about diet and, veganism and plant-based, I have a lot of patients with, severe gut issues that get so much better. A lot of people with like eczema or psoriasis, a lot of skin stuff is related to our gut. I've seen some amazing transformations from full body eczema, horrible quality of life, to being almost completely gone. And most of that's gut and diet.
What kind of things do you generally recommend, or what's your approach with someone who has terrible eczema?
Yeah, so for number one thing I look at is the gut. There is a very clear connection between the gut and the skin. I always like to explain that the skin is an external manifestation of what's happening internally, and almost always there's gut. So I look at what people are eating, and then I'm also looking at what their nervous system is doing, because if we're in a fight or flight all the time, we're not digesting our food, our bowel movements are off, most people are constipated. If you're not moving stuff out of the system, it's going to accumulate. I really just try to simplify. Gluten is a big one for a lot of people. There are some other foods. I do some food testing sometimes with people, so it just sort of depends. Everybody's different, and I think that's also a big distinction between what I do and conventional doctors is I don't have protocols. I treat to the person, and everyone has a completely different treatment plan.
And you're able to spend quality time with your patients, so you're really able to figure out and get to the root cause of what's going on. Now, do you tend to recommend a plant-forward way of eating, or how do you approach nutrition with your patients?
Yeah, so I would say that almost everyone can benefit from more plants in their diet. There are a lot of nuances there. People who have like nightshade allergies are a big one, especially with inflammatory joints. So I tend to steer people away from that. I do see a lot of histamine intolerance, so a lot of the higher histamine foods, so like the bananas, the avocados, the spinach, the strawberries, all the things in a really delicious smoothie. Obviously trying to get people away from too much alcohol, processed sugars. Again, gluten is a big one for a lot of people, especially with hypothyroidism and other autoimmunity. But again, it's very individualized, but almost everyone can benefit from more plants, hands down.
Yes. Amen to that. And I think everyone listening can agree.
For sure. I mean, I really don't think that there's one right diet for everybody. But I think there are just a lot of themes, mindful eating, whole foods. I'm one of the types of vegans. I don't eat hardly any of the processed fake stuff. But I really encourage just a whole food approach to diet, whatever it's going to be.
And so you also do acupuncture as well. Would you mind sharing what some of the benefits are for someone who may be interested in trying it?
Yeah, so acupuncture is magic. And so what I usually do, or have a lot of patients come to see me for, a lot of it's like the anxiety and the stress. Sleep is a big one. Gut issues I treat a lot of times with acupuncture as well. But I would say the top would be stress, anxiety, depression, mood. Mm-hmm.
Wow, yeah, interesting. And so there's a sleep component to it as well.
For sure. Sleep is everything. You know that as an athlete, sleep is everything. People have terrible sleep for so many different reasons. And, if sleep is off, then everything else is going to be off. So I really encourage good, healthy, quality sleep, probably more than almost anything else.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Because that can have such a huge impact on so many different facets throughout your day and your health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure. And especially too, when we think about diet, a lot of issues I see is difficulty with blood sugar regulation. That can spike our cortisol, that affects our sleep, and it's just a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I like about plants too, and making sure you get enough protein, of course. That can stabilize a lot of those other metabolic functions without actually having to do anything to them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really fascinating. And I'm curious too, is there anything else in your practice that you do that we might not think of if we're going to a conventional doctor?
Yeah, for sure. I think that all of us MDs are slightly different in terms of what we're interested in and what we do. I feel like the diet, lifestyle, the acupuncture, that's an easy sell for people. There are other, more energetic modalities like homeopathy. That's a whole other world. There are different ways of approaching the body, and there are different ways that you can give the body information. And it's not always hammering something in like, here's a supplement or here's whatever, here's a pharmaceutical. It's, can you get your body to resonate enough with itself so that it does its own job? And sometimes those more energetic therapies do a really good job at that. Especially for patients who are really sensitive to things like medications and supplements and just can't take anything.
If someone is thinking about seeing a naturopathic doctor, how would they search that or find someone near them?
Yeah, great question. So depending on where you are, each state, so for example, in Colorado, we have a Colorado Association of Naturopathic Doctors. And you can look for us on our website or whatever state that you're in to see who is kind of part of the state association. There are a lot of people out there who call themselves naturopaths, or they practice holistic medicine or natural medicine, but they are not licensed and educated the way that I am. NDs, we go through, an accredited program. We take board exams. We have to get licensed. We have continuing education. So there are a lot of people who try to kind of fake it and who are actually not qualified and educated. So just making sure that you're doing your due diligence. But all the associations, the state associations, those are the quality doctors.
And if I'm living in Colorado, can I come see you?
I have people all over the state. I have some people who come from Wyoming, Nebraska. I've had some people in the Dakotas come and see me. I've had people from all over the place.
So you mentioned protein earlier, and of course I want to talk about it since you're a power lifter and a vegan athlete. What are some common questions that you get when it comes to protein, being vegan, and also being incredibly strong?
The classic ones of where do you get your protein from? Are you deficient? Blah, 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 blah. The thing with protein is that it's not protein, it's the amino acid profile. And I think we forget about that, where it's like, it almost doesn't matter where the protein source is coming from as long as you're getting a complete amino acid profile, right? Because that's what our body does. It digests proteins in order to create amino acids, and then all of those amino acids go and fuel all of our body functions. So I think there's a misnomer about what protein is, right? So I get enough protein, I track it, I get plenty. For me, I'm one, I tolerate soy really well. Some people don't, and I get that. I eat a lot of lentil-based things, so I love the lentil pastas. That's a really big source of protein. I'm not fancy. I mean, I eat like the tofu, the tempeh, the lentils, the beans, all the vegetables. I don't have any problems. Close to competition, every once in a while, I'll throw a scoop of protein powder in there, but I really try to stay as food-based as possible.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I like that.
And I like to cook all my own food, for sure.
Which
that
is
makes
key.
a big difference.
Yes. How does that look week to week with your meals?
Yeah, so I'm a meal prepper. I know you're a meal prepper.
Yes.
You know, we're both very busy. I tend to make giant batches of things, or I make separate ingredients of things that I can just mix and match and just throw together. I work a very busy schedule, so I don't have time to make gourmet meals every day. Especially to, when you're an athlete, knowing that you have what you need already, it just sets you up for success and makes it easier for you to hit your athletic goals and then also just hit your life goals. So
yes.
Meal prepping is great. Home cooking is great if you have the opportunity. It's so much better than just, going out all the time or eating a bunch of, frozen microwave stuff.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yes. I mean, I would agree. I'm curious too, you mentioned making sure that you're getting a variety of foods that contain protein, which in turn means you're getting a variety of amino acids. Is there anything you do to make sure you're getting variety from week to week so that you're getting all of those amino acids?
Yeah, I try to rotate my protein sources. I think generally, my philosophy is variety is the spice of life, especially when you're thinking about the composition of your gut microbiome. I find that the people who are most sensitive to foods, they eat the same thing over and over and over again, and you become kind of sensitized to them. So I try to rotate my proteins. I try to rotate my fruits and veggies. I'm very into going to my local farmer's market and eating what's in season. So, I know that it's like the bodybuilders, it's very like same thing every day. I couldn't do that. But I really try to rotate my protein sources, and I really like fermented foods and making sure I'm getting my good probiotics from all of that too. So for me, food is everything, and making sure that I'm getting enough of different stuff.
Yeah. And it really helps, like you're saying, to be really planful in your meals, because that can make the world of difference in kind of setting yourself up for success for the week, making sure you're getting in that variety, getting in a bunch of different plants, and getting in lots of plants too, which is always helpful.
Lots of plants. Lots of plants. It's so funny, when I see my patients and I do intakes, it's just if people do eat plants, it's a very small amount of them, right? I eat like spinach one day, maybe I'll eat like, some tomatoes the next day. But I mean, I think there's somewhere I read it's like 30 plants a week or something. And it's fun because I think we kind of get stuck in a rut with the plants that we eat, and there's so many delicious ones out there, we just don't experiment. So it's almost like a fun game. Sometimes I'll do this, I'll go to the farmer's market or I'll go to the store and I'll pick something that I've never had or something different, and I'm like, what do I do with this, But yeah, most people don't eat nearly enough. And not nearly enough variety.
Yep. Yes, Dr. Bolsowitz is a big proponent of eating 30 different plants per week. And of course, there's studies out there to support that. So going back to the powerlifting aspect and Mr. America, which we'll be meeting in a week at this point, is there anything in particular you're looking forward to with the competition or just being there in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just excited to be there, to meet a bunch of like-minded people. I'm the only vegan athlete that I know.
Yep.
I'm very much of the... so just being around a group of people who do what I do, who get it, who I don't have to explain myself to, doing something completely out of my comfort zone. I'm very introverted. So being on a really large stage like that is really out of my comfort zone. Do things that scare you. And just having a completely different experience I'm really looking forward to, and hopefully hitting some good numbers, but if I don't, the experience will be all that it's worth.
Yes, definitely. I think it's worth just being able to meet everybody, be surrounded by like-minded people, other vegan athletes, which I feel like is so rare for us.
It's so rare. Like literally, I think I've met one other person, but that's it. I'm the only vegan at my gym right now.
Do you get many questions or like, oh, really, Sarah's vegan?
Not really. I think they know not to mess with me. I have like the resting face, right? I feel like I'm a decent enough lifter where, people are like, okay, like she can lift stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, she's barely lifting anything. It's because she's vegan. It's just like, oh, she's just lifting some heavy weight.
Yep. Yeah. Have you had any instances since you've been vegan, which you've been vegan for over a decade at this point?
Yeah, something like that.
Especially when you were powerlifting, where people try to convince you, well, you need to eat whey protein or eat meat or anything like that.
Yeah, so I know so many people don't do well with whey. I've had so many patients where they have like chronic gut stuff. I take whey out and it all goes away. No pun intended. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, over the years, I feel like people try to tell me what to do. I'm very much of, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm very good at critically thinking. I'm very good at listening to my own body. If this didn't work for me, I wouldn't do it, if I'm being honest. It works really well for me. And I'm one of those people, I lead by example. I don't need to go out there and like stand on a corner with a sign and say, go vegan. I just do my thing and people are like, all right, it can be done.
Yep. Heck yes, it can be.
It can be done.
Yep.
And now knowing everybody else on our team, I'm like, holy moly, it really can be done.
Yes. Oh my goodness, there are just some really incredible athletes.
We have so many amazing athletes on our team. It's like blowing my mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's been nice because when we got together, this is for you listening, when we all got together, basically when Giacomo and Danny were putting together the team, we all started following each other on social media, and it's just been so cool to be like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know, it just, it's very invigorating.
It is very invigorating. Yeah, definitely, I don't mind being like, the one that stands out where I am, but it's nice to know that I'm not alone, right?
Yes.
And that there's so many other people who do what I do and it's not an issue, right? Like we really get to show that you can do this, and it's honestly not that hard. I think people make it more difficult than it has to be.
Yep, I agree. Well, kind of like you were mentioning with your food, it's not like you're doing anything fancy. You're really just eating plants, like basic plants, and you're making it work.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I always track my blood work, like everything's great. I mean, I take my B12s, like all of that, probably most people should, but, there's nothing on my blood work that would indicate to me that I'm metabolically unwell from doing this. I mean, I can show all my levels to people and they're like, oh, okay, fine, whatever.
Yep. Well, I'm curious too, because I know that you are incredibly busy and you have a packed schedule. And I know for a lot of people listening, they can relate to, well, I don't have a lot of time to work out, or it's just really hard to get a workout in. How do you prioritize work, life, working out, all of those things?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm always trying to figure that out. I think that, our sense of time is really, it's like a self-limiting belief. Like we don't have time for this, so I'm not going to make time for it, right? It's this like vicious cycle. But I think that exercise is so foundational to so much of our other aspects of our life, our health, all of that it's so much more important than we give it credit for. Go for a 10-minute walk after a meal, do something, get off your phone for a few minutes. Even though it's an investment and you have to be consistent with it, the long-term reward from it is so much more than people give it credit for. And I think it's just having like a larger perspective about it where, there's some days I don't want to go to the gym, like I'm tired, right? But I always feel better once I'm there. I think you just have to get over yourself and just go do it.
Yeah.
But it's just so important to do all these things. And if something is really important to you, you'll do it. And I don't mean to, blame people for not doing things, but the things that we give our most attention to, our most priority to, are the things that we'll do, right? Ooh. And so if exercise isn't a big priority, you're not going to do it. So you just have to see, what are my priorities? What are my long-term goals? What is my health now? Where do I want to be and how do I get there? Yeah. And you don't have to be a competitive powerlifter, right? Go for a walk. Everyone has time. We're on our phones 24 hours a day, right? If you look at Instagram, how many minutes am I on this thing? Take that amount of time and then go do something else. You have the time, you just have to manage it better.
Yep. I could not agree more. It really is about prioritizing just different aspects of your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've started putting my workouts on my calendar because it makes my life so much easier to just know I have this block of time dedicated to this.
That's what I do too. I go to the gym the same days, the same times. It's just built into my schedule. I just get up and go, mostly because I can't do it any other day, so it has to be then. But I mean, if there's a will, there's a way, is really what it is. And, there are ways of integrating things into your life, and it doesn't have to be crazy. But I always say that small and consistent is better than large and inconsistent.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Well, so you started powerlifting around age 35. Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, and I know I was in this boat when I first started CrossFit, it was pretty intimidating. So how did you kind of get over, again, stepping outside your comfort zone and doing something that you hadn't been doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still intimidating. So I think the thing is that everyone is scared, right? I don't know if anyone steps up first time onto a platform or a squat rack and are like, I got this. I don't think that exists. And I think it's just giving yourself a little bit of humility and grace of like, okay, I'm doing something different and new. Most people are absorbed in their own stuff anyways. They don't care. And I think it's just realizing that you're doing this for you. You're doing it for a lot of reasons, family or work or whatever it is to support yourself. And I think just keeping in mind the reasons that you're doing it and your goals kind of, gets all the scariness to go away. It's still scary stepping on a platform, right? You have no idea what's going to happen. But, you know, I always love the phrase, you know, it's better to try something and fail than not try at all, right? Because then you still know. You don't know what you're capable of until you do it.
Yep. Yeah. Also could not agree more. Where can people connect with you and support you as you lift next week?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely follow us on, you know, PlantBuilt and VeganStrong on Instagram. You'll see a lot of our stuff there. If you want to connect with me personally, I do have a private Instagram just because I need to filter out the patients that I do see. But you're always welcome to, you know, connect with us through the team, and then you can always say, oh, interested in connecting with Sarah or whatever, and I can approve you if I want to. I just have to be careful about my boundaries, personally and professionally. So, but if you are in Colorado or you know someone in Colorado, my clinic is called Rocky Mountain Natural Medicine, and I'm in Fort Collins, which is about an hour-ish north of Denver, depending on traffic. But definitely, you know, support our team at Mr. America, support all of our athletes. You know, I'm just one piece of this amazing crew that we have going. So I hope that you'll all root for us. Yeah,
absolutely. And we'll put the link to your practice in the show notes as well for anyone who might be interested in checking you out. I think that would be phenomenal. Sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I would love that.
To clarify too, the people who are driving in from out of state, are they able to see you as well? They don't have to necessarily be living in state to see you?
Yeah, there's a weird loophole. If I'm able to see someone in person first, I can treat them and do some follow-ups out of state. It's just, you know, if you are only in, you know, X state, I can't kind of treat you from there initially. So it's a lot of gray area. But if I can see you in person, we can get a lot done.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, wonderful. Well, highly recommend that if you're living in the area and you're looking for a naturopathic doctor. That just sounds like a phenomenal fit. I would be going to you in a heartbeat. That's for sure.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really just appreciate your enthusiasm, and I can't wait to meet you in a week, which is so wild to say.
I'm so excited to meet you. It's going to be great. Like part of wanting to do this was just to like be able to like talk to somebody. I'd like chat with some other people through Instagram. I'm just like, I just want to get to know my people. So.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So it's just as much for me as it is for you.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so thankful. So I'm glad it all worked out.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. And then for you listening, thank you so much for tuning in. This is part 4 of our 5-part series with the PlantBuilt team. And so we will be competing in a week. So definitely, like Sarah said, check out the links below and give us a shout. And also, if you want to support us, you can do that as we compete in Mr. America, October 6th, 7th, and 8th.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley.
And thank you, Sarah.
Until next time, keep thriving.